True leadership, it isn't measured by some inspiring quote you stick on a wall or a big, bold declaration you make in a meeting. No, it's tested. It's tested by reality, by crisis, and by the heavy, heavy price of actually turning those words into results.
This ancient verse might sound like it's about an ancient battle, right? But it speaks to a truth that is just universal. It's about that exact moment when something you've wished for, a challenge you've been asking for, finally shows up, and you're face to face with the harsh, undeniable reality of it. That is the ultimate test of your character. In modern Turkish business slang, they have this fantastic, blunt phrase for this exact situation. Goy goyu bırakın. It basically means cut the chatter or stop the empty talk. And that perfectly captures what this is all about. The massive and often disastrous gap between talking a big game and actually having to step onto the field to play. So what really happens when all those corporate slogans and those big idealistic promises are finally put to the test in the real world?
Okay, so here's the core problem. A lot of leaders, they love to talk about things like efficiency, transformation, and competitiveness. But when it's actually time to pay the price, and I mean the real price, through hard work, tough decisions, and genuine sacrifice, so many are just not mentally or emotionally prepared. The slogans, they're easy. The reality, not so much. And when that reality finally hits, the consequences can be absolutely severe. This is the tangible, real-world price that gets paid when leadership is all talk and zero substance. You can almost watch the dominoes fall, one after another. It starts small, maybe with a few shipping problems. But then, that leads to missed deadlines. And suddenly, customer complaints are spiking. Now you're bleeding money on returns and your logistics costs are just soaring. And inside the company, oh, it's just as bad. Motivation just vanishes. Quiet quitting starts to spread like a virus. Then, in a panic, you hire more people to fix the mess, but that just creates more errors. And before you know it, your competitiveness has completely tanked. So for that leader who was just relying on empty talk, well, the peace is gone. All of a sudden, you are personally paying the price for every single warning you ignored, every bit of office gossip, every single boast you couldn't back up. The stress becomes immense, and the whole situation just spirals right out of your control.
So how does it get this bad? I mean, to fix a problem, you have to find the root cause. And it almost always traces back to a critical flaw in the leader's mindset.
And here it is. The fundamental problem is this. When things go wrong, these leaders immediately start looking for a person to blame. They don't look at the system, they don't look at the workflow, they don't look at the process. They personalize failure, which, let me tell you, is the fastest way to destroy trust and make sure nobody learns anything. And this just shows a massive contrast in thinking. The failing leader's first question is always, who did this? It's all ego. It becomes a hunt for a scapegoat. But a real leader, an effective leader, asks a totally different question. Why did this happen? See that shift? It's so simple but so powerful. It takes the blame off a person and puts the focus right where it belongs, on fixing the root cause within the process itself. I absolutely love this analogy. Think of your organization like a cow. If you want a steady supply of good milk, that's your result, right? You can't just yell at the cow and demand it. You have to care for the cow. You have to build a relationship of trust, make sure its environment is healthy, manage its stress. High performance, real results, they come from a nurtured and respected system, not from just shouting at it. Okay, so if blaming people is the core problem, then the solution has to look completely different in practice. It means getting out of the corner office and going to the real place, the place where the work actually gets done. And this brings us to this incredible Japanese concept called Gemba. It literally means the real place. In business, the Gemba is the factory floor, the warehouse, the call center. You know, wherever value is actually being created. Real leadership isn't found behind a desk staring at spreadsheets. It's found by going to the Gemba. And the Toyota Way gives us such a powerful blueprint for how to do this. It starts with this beautiful principle, Genchi Genbutsu, which means go and see for yourself. You don't make decisions from a distance, you go and witness the reality with your own eyes. Then, from there, it's about Nemawashi,
which is carefully preparing the ground, building consensus with your team before you make a big move. And finally, Hoshin Kanri, which is all about sticking to the plan, maintaining discipline and direction, especially when things get really tough.
All right, so let's see how this all comes together in the real world. Because the ultimate test for these two totally opposing philosophies, blaming people versus improving the process, it always arrives in the form of a crisis.
A crisis doesn't care about your company's vision statement. It's not going to read your fancy PowerPoint slides. A crisis strips away absolutely everything except your true character, your patience, and your actual competence. It is the moment of truth.
And this example just perfectly illustrates the difference. On one hand, you have the talker. They lash out, they blame their staff for a market downturn, they punish their suppliers, they fire loyal people just to make a point. They protect the powerful, not what's actually right. Now, compare that to what Toyota did during the 2008 financial crisis. They stopped their production lines, but they fired no one. They used that downtime to train their people, improve their processes, and actually strengthen their relationships with suppliers. See the difference? One leader runs from responsibility, the other builds resilience.
Look, a lot of industries have standards that require a contingency plan on paper, but that document, it's completely useless if those principles aren't embedded deep in the leader's spirit. In the end, a leader's character is the only contingency plan that truly matters. So we'll end with a question for you to really reflect on. When your moment of truth arrives, when the pressure is on and the stakes are higher than ever, is your leadership going to be just another empty slogan on a slide? Or is it going to be a verifiable fact, proven on the ground in the Gemba, where it actually counts?